Good afternoon. My name is Faith Takis, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Mildred Elley Colleges. I want to welcome all the graduates from all three campuses, Albany, New York, New York, and Pittsfield, Massachusetts, to our 2021 virtual recognition ceremony. We are so proud of all of you today. Fighting all kinds of obstacles, COVID illness, learning online, kids home from school, you have successfully conquered the mountain. In using your time productively during these unprecedented times, you are ready to face the new world of work with purpose. Congratulations and best wishes to you. And congratulations also to all your family and friends who supported you in your effort to become a graduate of the Mildred Elley College. Good luck.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. John McGrath. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and President of Mildred Elley College. To the academic and administrative leadership of Mildred Elley College, to family and friends, and most of all, the 2020 graduates of Mildred Elley. It is an honor to be with you all virtually today through video conferencing. I truly miss not being able to be there to personally shake your hand as you cross the stage. But the coronavirus pandemic has created many challenges, but our college community has risen to the occasion, and this virtual graduation is a testament to our collective ability to adapt to circumstances. My remarks today will principally center on two general themes related to changing the world. The first is the proposition that human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. And the second is that true genius is based upon courage, determination, passion, and creativity. The Reverend Martin Luther King gave a commencement address to the graduating class of Oberlin College in 1965. He reflected about the fact that we're all dependent upon one another, that we make our own future, that human progress never rolls in on those wheels of inevitability, or simply stated, the best way to predict your future is for you to create your future. Reverend King theorized that all mankind is tied together. All mankind is related. It's interrelated, and we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. We are all a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And of course, Dr. King championed the movement that Black lives do matter. He believed that we must come to see that human progress is not inevitable. It comes through the tireless hard work and efforts of persistent, dedicated individuals. Because without hard work, time becomes an ally of primitive forces of social stagnation. So we realize that time is always right to do right. So what is Dr. King's message if he were here today? You, the graduates of Mildred Elley, must do the right thing to positively change the world. And you're off to a great start. Today you earn a college degree. Today you earn a certificate, which is a testament to your intellectual ability and your spirit of determination. And as you know better than anyone else, you earned it. And no one can ever take a college degree or a certificate away from you. You dreamed about this day, sometimes against all odds, but you did not give up. Many of you juggle the competing demands of family, work, and college. Some of you are parents. Some of you are even single parents. But despite all the obstacles, despite all the times it would have been just too easy to give up, you said no. You know, there's a simple rule for successful leaders. If the front door is closed, then go to the back door. If the back door is closed, then open a window. And if that window won't open, climb up on the roof and cut a hole in that damn roof, but get into the house. Because that's what leaders and winners do. Courage, passion, determination, and creativity are the true genius of champions. You, the graduates of Mildred Elley, are champions. Champions are champions not always because they do something extraordinary, but they do ordinary things better than anyone else. The confident person doesn't concentrate or focus on their weaknesses. They maximize their strengths. My father always said to me as a young man that courage is half the battle. And he was right. Persisting in graduating was the right move. You academically prepared yourself in a very, very competitive world. My dad also had these words of wisdom. He said, son, the person that knows how will most likely have a job. But the person that also knows why is most likely to be their boss. You invested an important part of your life earning this college degree or certificate. The faculty intellectually challenged your mind, wanted to give you a great intellectual foundation, and the gravitas to reach greater heights. Throughout my life, I've been influenced by many philosophers that I read about, intellectuals, political leaders, civil rights leaders, and yes, even athletes. And I'm going to quote a few of them because they mean so much to me and I hope they mean something to you. The first is to go after your dreams. Harriet Tubman stated that every great dream begins with what? A dreamer. Always remember that you have within you the strength, you have within you the patience and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. Be courageous. None other than John Wayne. He stated, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. Don't settle in life. Nelson Mandela, the great civil rights leader from South Africa. He stated, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. There is no passion to be found in playing small and settling for a life that is less than one you're prepared to live for. Education, he stated, is the most powerful weapon which you can use, education, to change the world. Stand up for your principles, Malcolm X. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. A college education brings life into your life. Victor Hugo stated, he who opens a school door, he closes a prison. Don't be afraid to fail. Perhaps the best intellectual genius in the world of all time, Albert Einstein stated, a person that never made a mistake never tried anything new. Great minds have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. Stand strong against opposition. Martin Luther King stated one of my favorite quotes, courage comes through continuous struggle. We must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent. Don't give up. Michael Jordan. He stated, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost over 300 games in basketball. Over 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, but that's why I succeed. I have never been afraid to fail in order to win. And one of my favorites, Rocky Balboa, that great intellectual genius, almost up there with Einstein. He was talking to his son in Rocky V, and he stated to his son, let me tell you something you already know, son. The world ain't all sunshine and roses. It can be a mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers that you're not where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, son, and you're not a coward. You're better than that. And I'll end up for quotes with Muhammad Ali in this section. He stated, with respect to having confidence in yourself, I'm so fast that last night I turned off the light switch in my hotel room and I was in bed before the room went dark. If you ever dreamed of beating me, you better wake up and apologize. So I'm challenging you, the graduates, to seriously consider where you think you'd like to be 3 years from now. Where are you going to be 5 years from now? How about 10? I'd like for you to go home tonight and to write those things down. Where are you going to be 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now? What do you believe is going to happen to you? And then hide it. And then go back to it and read it from time to time throughout your life. And after sincere reflection, you may want to change your future goals given life's realities. But leave your original goals for contemplation. Did your dreams come true? What are your new goals? What are your new dreams? What makes you happy? And what is your existential definition of success. I want you to reflect upon your life intellectually and spiritually, but never be afraid to do something because someone's going to criticize you about it. Don't be afraid of critics. There's always plenty of those. Stand up to it. I like to quote President Theodore Roosevelt with respect to handling critics. It's not the critic that counts, nor the man who points out where the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deed, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place will never be with those cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. Remember, again, that great intellectual genius, Rocky Balboa. It's not how many times you get knocked down in life. The only thing that matters is how many times did you get back up again. Stay strong, stay passionate, always follow your heart and trust yourself. Pursue your dreams with dignity and just don't ever give up. And I'll leave you with an Irish blessing. May the roads rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields. And may God forever hold you in the palm of his hand. And I wish you could be here walking across the stage, because if you were here, I'd stick my hand out and shake your hand to congratulate you as being a graduate of Mildred Elley. God bless you.
Congratulations, graduates. It is my honor to have been a part of your journey. I know you have put in the work and made it to this point. However, let me point out that this is just the beginning. You have proven to your families, friends, classmates, and the faculty that you have the it factor that has brought you to this memorable moment. I define the it as that thing that wakes you up in the morning, keeps you studying late at night, and directs your path through adversity, leading you to achieve your goals. Now, the it is not the same for everyone, but I personally witnessed variations of your it during the pandemic, and each of you showed what I call FAR. You were flexible, you were adaptable, and you were resilient. When the school was forced to close in March 2020, you did not quit. Instead, you waited for the virtual doors to open, and when they did, you returned. That demonstrated your flexibility. When classes moved to virtual format, you did not quit. Instead, you figured out your Wi-Fi, you got a laptop, you learned how to Zoom, Connect, Moodle, Teams, and every other platform thrown your way. You figured out how to do it. That demonstrated your adaptability. When your children started virtual school, you helped them with their schoolwork during the day and balanced your own schoolwork at night to keep up. That demonstrated your resilience. I encourage you to keep on refining and redefining your it, because it will keep you on task throughout your life while strengthening your FAR. Remember, flexibility, adaptability, and resilience. For those who had me as a professor, know that my only goal was to impart pearls and not just to give you busy work. So now is the time to put all that theory into practice. I thank all the people who helped you along the way and to stay on task, your family, your friends, advisors, professors, co-workers, classmates, and I'm sure the list goes on. Just know that this honor belongs to those individuals too. Congratulations again to all graduates, and I wish you well. This is Professor Stacy Mungo, Chair of Business Management and Advanced Paralegal Studies, and I approve this message.
Congratulations, graduates. It's been a long journey, but you persevered with your hard work and dedication to your field of study. So now you're ready to move on to greater challenges. So to help you with those challenges, make sure to stay in contact with the career services that can help you to obtain jobs or anything that you need help with your career. So with that being said, again, congratulations, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Elba Alvarez. Practical Nursing Certificate. Omo Biba. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate.
Hi guys, just want to say thank you so much for what you've done so far. I'm really happy to be one of your students at Mildred, Elley. Thank you guys.
Takesha Baldwin. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Nicola Charles. Medical Assistant, AOS. Corey Davis. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Luciana De Leon. Practical Nursing Certificate. Guidabeth De Leon. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Zakaria Dennis Charles. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Denkumri Dio Karen. Medical Assistant, AOS.
Congratulations, class of 2021. We did it. Remember, always be bold, be brave, and be your best self.
Melody Encarnacion. Medical Assistant, AOS. Jamira. Medical Assistant, AOS. Unique Gordon. Medical Assistant, AOS. Migdalia Hernandez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate.
Because of you three, I finished. Thank you for believing in me, and thank you for always being there for supporting me. I love you all my heart.
Ashley. Medical Assistant, AOS. Kimberly Howe. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate.
Thank you all for all your love and support throughout my educational experience. I truly appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Latifa King. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Kaina Mervalard. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. KG Olatoy. Medical Assistant, AOS. Chaudhry Uroto. Paralegal Studies, AS.
Hello, my name is Chaudhry Uroto. I would like to thank all my professors. I'm very proud of the success. Thank you, Mildred.
Nicole Parker. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shamani Richards. Medical Assistant, AOS.
I don't even know where to start, but I'm just saying, all the people who doubted me, look at me now. I did it. Period.
Marie Rodney. Paralegal Studies. Johanna Roman. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate.
Hi, my name is Joanna Roman. Thank you, Mildred Elley Metro Campus, for helping me achieve my CMA certificate.
Latoya Sally. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate.
Just want to say congratulations to all. I wish you all the best in life, and good luck on your job search.
Chelsea Soto. Medical Assistant, AOS.
Congratulations, class of 2021. We did it. We rock. I want to thank my friends and my family for the love and support. Most importantly, my son and my husband love you.
Natalie Stone, Business Management, AOS.
I want to thank my family, my friends, my mentors, my professors, everybody who was there for me to see me achieve my business management degree, and I'm ready for a new adventure.
Tiffany Joanne Toro, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Cherise Townsend, Practical Nursing Certificate. Yatom, Medical Assistant, AOS. Yahaira Vasquez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Shauner Allen, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Alicia Antoine, Massage Therapy, AOS. Faith Brewster, Medical Assistant, AOS. Sequoia Brown, Medical Assistant, AOS. Michelle Burden, Medical Assistant, AOS. Dayanira Collin, Medical Assistant, AOS. Natalie German, Massage Therapy, AOS.
Hi everybody, I want to give thanks to God, to my mother, and to my husband for always believing in me. Thanks to all my teachers and congratulations to everybody. May you all prosper and be in health.
Karen Herrera, Medical Assistant, AOS. Amanda Maximin, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tahari McRae, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tiffany McLean, Medical Assistant, AOS. Yasmin Morales, Medical Assistant, AOS. Marcia Prendergast, Medical Assistant, AOS. Giselle Sarrier, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Alviana Scott, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Wendy Sierra, Massage Therapy, AOS. Nashri Naomi Singh, Medical Assistant, AOS.
Hey guys, my name is Nashri Singh and I can't believe you made it to graduation 2021. Thank you all for all your help and let's go.
Denisha Carmona, Medical Assistant, AOS. Lafayette Smith, Massage Therapy, AOS. Michelle Stokes, Clinical Medical Assistant. Monet Brown, Clinical Medical Assistant. Kashina Johnson, Medical Assistant, AOS. Noemi Peralta, Clinical Medical Assistant. Theomi Richards, Medical Assistant, AOS. Natividad Taylor, Medical Assistant, AOS.
I did it. Thank you, Karina, Dr. I, and congrats, Shamani. Love you, boo.
Andrea Perez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Sky LaBoy, Medical Assistant, AOS. Luz Balcazar, Medical Assistant AOS. Jose Castellanos, Massage Therapy.
Thank you to my professors and the rest of my staff for their help and support.
Ikeria Taylor, Medical Assistant AOS. Crystal Davis, Medical Assistant AOS. Yesha Foster, Medical Assistant AOS. Niakael Keita, Medical Assistant AOS. Tiffany Joanne Toro, Clinical Medical Assistant. Lavani Barthelme, Medical Assistant AOS. Ivana Williams, Medical Assistant AOS. Jasmine Dawson, Medical Assistant AOS. Hilda Calixto, Medical Assistant AOS.
I just want to say thank you to my mother, to my brothers, and to my crew.
Rhodey Joseph, Medical Assistant AOS.
Hello everyone, it's Rhodey Joseph. I want to thank God, I want to thank my wife, my kids, everyone, every single one of you. Thank you so much, we did it.
Nicole Labib Arroyo, Medical Assistant AOS. Chanel Woods, Clinical Medical Assistant. Lesvia Marina Abdulhamid, Medical Assisting AOS.
Thank God for all your blessings. It took me a million steps to be here today, but finally I made it. Congratulations, class 2021. We made it.
Hajara Al Hassan, Medical Assistant AOS.
Hi everyone, this is Hajara Al Hassan. Thank you so much. Thanks to Almighty God for bringing us this far and today.
Erica Blanco, Medical Assisting AOS. Hera Brown, Medical Assistant AOS. Cindy Lopez, Medical Assistant AOS. Rachel Rosado, Medical Assisting AOS. Alya Watson Adakanal, Medical Assistant AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Yvonne Kigwa, Medical Assistant AOS.
Thank God that this day is finally here. I wish you all the best, and just remember this is just the beginning. Thank you.
Catherine Webb, Medical Assistant AOS. Faustina Adoerki, Practical Nursing Certificate. Agnes AJASIN, Medical Assistant AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Christy Elsindor, Practical Nursing Certificate. Janet Almanzar, Medical Assistant, AOS. Sophony Alphonse Quadio. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Elena Manqua. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Andrine Anderson. Practical Nursing Certificate. Crystal Andino. Medical Assistant, AOS. Siobhan Antoine. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Quintona Armwood. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Jessica BAEZ. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Fatoumata Ba. Medical Assistant, AOS. Evangeline Baptiste. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Fatima Barrow. Medical Assistant, AOS. Yesenia M. Batista. Practical Nursing Certificate. Lizeth Bato. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Priscilla Batroni. Medical Assistant, AOS. KHADIJAH Bell. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Peta Gay Bennett. Medical Assistant, AOS. Esther Blaze. Medical Assistant, AOS. Criselda Blanco. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Valerie Boré. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sean Boyce. Medical Assistant, AOS. MAREINA Brewer. Medical Assistant, AOS. Orlando Brissett. Business Management, AOS. Bernadette Brown. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Ebony Caceres. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Novene Campbell. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Andrea Carmichael. Medical Assistant, AOS. Gloria Kareth Bennett. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Lizette Cazomoise. Medical Assistant, AOS. Kanisha Champ. Massage Therapy, AOS. Amy Chen. Medical Assistant, AOS. Jessica Cheng. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Larry Chisholm. Practical Nursing Certificate. Reisa Collin. Medical Assistant, AOS. Khadijah Daniel Cook. Practical Nursing Certificate. Michael Cooper. Practical Nursing Certificate. Andrea Cortez. Practical Nursing Certificate. Tamara Cruz. Medical Assistant, AOS. Fatima CULLUM. Business Management, AOS. Casey Cummings. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sabine Damius. Medical Assistant, AOS. Peace Davis. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Saghein Disarms. Practical Nursing Certificate. Samuel Desser. Medical Assistant, AOS. Omo K. Diallo. Medical Assistant, AOS. Omo Diallo. Medical Assistant, AOS. Donna Dorns. Business Management, AOS. Venice Drysdale, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Brittany Dupuy, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. KHADIJAH Edwards, Medical Assistant, AOS. Ashley Ellis, Medical Assistant, AOS. Jessica Espinoza, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Michelle Falconer, Practical Nursing Certificate. Noelle Febre Gonzalez, Practical Nursing Certificate. Ciatra Felix, Medical Assistant, AOS. Yakira Fitzpatrick, Medical Assistant, AOS. Amaryllis Flores, Medical Assistant, AOS. Lucy Fortune Warren, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tamara Francis, Medical Assistant, AOS. Pauline Francis, Practical Nursing Certificate. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. NAHEEMAH Francois, Medical Assistant, AOS. Love Garcia, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Paige George, Medical Assistant, AOS. Dana Glatman, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Stephanie Gonzalez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Katrina Gonzalez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Azure A. GRANT-NUGENT, Practical Nursing Certificate. Carrie and Greaves Foster, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Chanel Grizzle, Practical Nursing Certificate. Joyce Guidi, Medical Assistant, AOS. Cheryl Hamilton, Medical Assistant, AOS. Betty Harris, Practical Nursing Certificate. Beverly Henrice, Practical Nursing Certificate. Crystal Henville, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Ruby Hernandez, Practical Nursing Certificate. Janaire Hill, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shanti Holder, Practical Nursing Certificate. Blair Hollier, Practical Nursing Certificate. Shamika Hope, Medical Assistant, AOS. Violet Hoskins, Medical Assistant, AOS. Caroline Jamie, Medical Assistant, AOS. Lucinda James, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sheila James, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Elizabeth James, Medical Assistant, AOS. Catherine Jean Baptiste, Medical Assistant, AOS. Natasha John Felix, Medical Assistant, AOS. Cazelle Johnson, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Tajari Johnson, Medical Assistant, AOS. Barbara Joseph, Medical Assistant, AOS. Hitch Weiss Just, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Rosaline Kalu, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Tena Keita, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Kemar King, Massage Therapy, AOS. Omo Khanate, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Katie Koroma, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shauna Levy. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Kyla Lewis. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shanette Lewis. Paralegal Studies AS. Gerard Ligand. Practical Nursing Certificate. Cindy Ling. Practical Nursing Certificate. Devontae Livingston. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Arelis Lano. Medical Assistant, AOS. Sharita Longmore. Medical Assistant, AOS. Natalie Lopez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Tiffany Lopez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Rhonda Love. Practical Nursing Certificate. Denia Lovett. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Dana Lyons. Medical Assistant, AOS. Glennis Madera Farrand. Medical Assistant, AOS. Alicia Maloney. Paralegal Studies AS. Marian Mansoray. Medical Assistant, AOS. Adeline Marseille. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Anela Marty. Practical Nursing Certificate. Rosa Martinez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Raven Matthias. Medical Assistant, AOS. Tatanisha McClinton. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Cynthia Medina. Medical Assistant, AOS. Carolyn Mejia. Medical Assistant, AOS. Takia Melbourne. Medical Assistant, AOS. Charisma Melendez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Kennel Miller. Practical Nursing Certificate. Marcia Miller. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Lisa Minot. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Christina Munger. Practical Nursing Certificate. Diamond Montanez. Medical Assistant, AOS. Shafai Moore. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Justina Morales. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sharon Morgan. Practical Nursing Certificate. Haley Morris. Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shania Murray. Paralegal Studies AS. Kalamaya Narcisse. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Cassandra Nelson. Medical Assistant, AOS. Esther Newton. Medical Assistant, AOS. Merlin Nicholas. Medical Assistant, AOS. Noelle Unsend. Medical Assistant, AOS. B. Dorcas Nzoigba. Practical Nursing Certificate. Omalara Odunfa. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Gloria Okunsari. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Nicole Olivo Batista. Medical Assistant, AOS. Leonard Olanamoyo. Practical Nursing Certificate. Makeda Omis. Medical Assistant, AOS. Igsi Amarag Bakpada. Medical Assistant, AOS. Francisco Osorio. Massage Therapy, AOS. Jamili Ostang, Medical Assistant, AOS. Susan Palmer, Medical Assistant, AOS. Kathy Paradiso, Medical Assistant, AOS. Arlene Perez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tayakaria Philip, Medical Assistant, AOS. Andrea PHILLIP-FRANCIS, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Denise L. Phillips, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Christina Pierre, Paralegal Studies AS. Margaret Poma, Massage Therapy, AOS. Lenora Quilden, Medical Assistant, AOS. Baumati Ramkarater, Medical Assistant, AOS. Destiny Ramos, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Tiana Radigan, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shay Rice, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Elisha Ricketts, Practical Nursing Certificate. Carlene Riley, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Maritza Rivera, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Nicola Roberts, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Nyasia Rogers, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Idera Rosario, Practical Nursing Certificate. Leslie Ross, Practical Nursing Certificate. Manifa Rowe, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Evelyn Sajaus, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sally Mata Saul, Medical Assistant, AOS. Khadijah Saul Epps Diallo, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. BB Samaru, Practical Nursing Certificate. Jemima Sampong, Practical Nursing Certificate. Rema Sankara, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Esperanza Sanchez, Practical Nursing Certificate. Sonia Saunders, Practical Nursing Certificate. Vanieta Sicharon, Medical Assistant, AOS. Cassiana Sinatus, Business Management, AOS. Angela Syme Hastings, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Nakia Simmons, Medical Assistant, AOS. Ebony Simmons, Medical Assistant, AOS. Karen Veer Singh, Business Management, AOS. Sylvia Skeepko, Practical Nursing Certificate. Natica Summers, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Naom Samwaru, Practical Nursing Certificate. Raven Square, Practical Nursing Certificate. Karen St. Louis, Medical Assistant, AOS. Stephen Strothers, Massage Therapy, AOS. Shamika Sumter, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Guernica Surfin, Practical Nursing Certificate. Vanessa Tessier, Practical Nursing Certificate. Denise Underhill, Medical Assistant, AOS. Janice Underhill, Medical Assistant, AOS. Alyssa Valerio, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Maya Leilani Vasquez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Hema Valadim, Medical Assistant, AOS. Simone Victor, Medical Assistant, AOS. Siobhan Wales, Medical Assistant, AOS. Christine Washington, Medical Assistant, AOS. Vanessa Watts, Medical Assistant, AOS. Dominique Westbrook, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Mikara Wheatley, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Brianna White, Medical Assistant, AOS. Abiadin Williams, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Diamond Jasmine Williams, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tanisha Williams Hokie, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Alicia Williams Thompson, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Suhaila Wilson, Medical Assistant, AOS. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sirika Wright, Medical Assistant, AOS. Kwadwo Adonu, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Hajara Al Hassan, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Sasha Arana, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Jamisha Barnes, Medical Assistant, AOS. Jessica Bethia, Medical Assistant, AOS. Antonia Boyd, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Amoy Brown, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Susanna Brown, Medical Assistant, AOS. Alicia Callum, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Zacharies Corella, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Elizabeth Colazo, Medical Assistant, AOS. Christina Kroom, Medical Assistant, AOS. Angelica Duran, Medical Assistant, AOS. Jacqueline Francis, Medical Assistant, AOS. Kwame Hardy, Paralegal Studies, AS. Precious Jackson, Medical Assistant, AOS. Simeon Jordan, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Fatima Kaba, Medical Assistant, AOS. Nia Kael Keita, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Judy Liu, Medical Assistant, AOS. Jeanette McCang A. Dong, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Syasia Milan, Medical Assistant, AOS. Josh and Morlise Hales, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Martine Nathan, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Tennille Newbold, Medical Assistant, AOS. Taiti Anastasia Ma, Medical Assistant, AOS. Tamika Padmore, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Wendy Pierre-Louis, Medical Assistant, AOS. Leonide Privina, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Gabriela Rivera, Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Rosalva Rivera Castillo, Medical Assistant, AOS. Barbara Rodriguez, Medical Assistant, AOS. Rachel Rosado. Medical Assistant, AOS. Caroline Santiago Velasquez. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Trudy Sales. Medical Assistant, AOS. Sabrina Singh. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Akil Smith. Medical Assistant, AOS. Igor Savtov. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Kalisa Stewart. Medical Assistant, AOS. Natalie Wallace. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Shania Woodruff. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Michaela Workman. Clinical Medical Assistant Certificate. Yesha Foster. Medical Assistant AOS. Robin Banks. Licensed Practical Nursing. Paula Henderson. Medical Assistant AOS. Nicole Young. Medical Assistant AWS. Chantel Black Davis. Medical Assistant AOS. Anthony Holt. Business Management. Ivana Williams. Medical Assistant AOS. Chantel Lattimore. Medical Assistant AOS. Monique Mock. Medical Assistant AOS. Gina Felix. Medical Assistant AOS. Yohani Martinez. Medical Assistant AOS. Maria Ramcharan. Medical Assistant AOS. Starshine Renee. Clinical Medical Assistant. Faith Lavelle. Medical Assistant AOS. Hilda Garay. Medical Assistant AOS. Karina Williams Brooks. Medical Assistant AOS. Shalette Powell. Medical Assistant AOS. Octavia Marquez. Business Management. Merland Noel. Business Management. Shinice Sutherland. Business Management. Muhammad Musaid Jr. Paralegal Studies. Summer Alston. Paralegal Studies. Emily Reyes. Paralegal Studies. Stacy Collington. Paralegal Studies. Tobian Reed. Business Management. Lavasia Gatling. Business Management. Varianti Kreiner. Paralegal Studies. Natalie German. Massage Therapy. Carrie Charles. Medical Assistant AOS. Trudy Ann Ellis. Medical Assistant AOS. Chantel Black Davis. Medical Assistant AOS. Crystal Davis. Medical Assistant AOS. Donna Dorns. Medical Assistant AOS. Yohani Martinez. Medical Assisting AOS. Monique Mock. Medical Assistant AOS. Daisy Santamaria. Medical Assistant AOS. Akil Smith. Medical Assistant AOS. Jessica Bethia. Medical Assistant AOS.
And now the moment we have all been waiting for. Will all the candidates for graduation please rise? Mildred Elley is approved as an institution of higher education by the Regents of the State of New York and by the New York State Education Department. Mildred Elley is accredited by the Accrediting Bureau of Health Education Schools. On the recommendation of the faculty and by the Board of Directors of Mildred Elley, and in recognition of the completion of each student's prescribed course of study, I, as chairman of the board of the Mildred Elley Colleges, and by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the above-mentioned agencies, do hereby declare that those standing before me are graduates of their school and college with all the rights, obligations, and privileges pertaining to their academic achievement. Congratulations, class of 2021.